Hey guys, welcome back to my workshop. Today we're building some birdhouses. We're gonna do an easy one, kind of a medium difficulty one, and a very difficult one. Never in my life did I think I would be using trigonometry to build a birdhouse, but here we are. All these birdhouses are gonna be built with some pretty standard materials, some cedar fence pickets, another cedar board. I'm gonna be outside, so I'm using cedar. Just like in all my build videos, there are free plans to all three of these builds in the description. So I wanted to make this first birdhouse incredibly simple. You don't need power tools actually to build this birdhouse. If you have a handsaw, a hammer, some nails, you're good to go. You're in the game. I have power tools, so I'm gonna use power tools because I'm gonna try to knock out 3 birdhouses today. So I wanna keep this thing moving. All you need for this first birdhouse is one $3 to $4 cedar fence picket, depending on where you get it from. These are 5/8 of an inch thick. They are 5.5 inches wide, and they are 6 feet long. Here you go, now you can see the whole thing. I'm not gonna break into a brand new fence picket though. I do a lot of building. I have a lot of scraps laying around the shop, and I'm really trying to make an effort these next few months to use scrap wood instead of going out and buying new lumber all the time. We're gonna cut 3 pieces at 8 inches, and we're gonna cut 1 piece at 7 7/8 of an inch. And for the front, I want it to be 5 3/4 of an inch. So this will be for the front door of the birdhouse. And then the very bottom of the birdhouse needs to be 4.5 inches, which is right at the end of this dog ear here. All right, so we have all the pieces we need for this entire birdhouse right here. So the back of the birdhouse is the 7 7/8 inch piece. The reason for that is because I want there to be airflow through this thing. So this is gonna allow some air to come out the top once we get the roof pitch on. And this is the other side here. And then the roof is gonna slant down forward like this. That's basically what it's supposed to look like right now at this point. We've got everything cut. So before we start assembly, let's go ahead and get the side angles cut, right? These are our side walls. So we're not going to touch the back of it. We want them to slant forward so the roof sits kind of like that on it. We do want there to be overhang in the front and just a little bit in the back, not a lot. Just enough to keep the rain from, dripping down and getting inside the house. So to find out the roof pitch, originally I was just gonna make a cut right here, and then I realized that that's actually not gonna work the way it all works out with the angles. The roof will end up running in to the front of this since this isn't mitered at all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set it up like that. Here's my roof piece. I'm gonna line it up with the back corner because that's where it's gonna rest. But I want there to be about 1/8 of an inch gap in the front on this side so that there's some airflow. We don't want it to get overly hot, especially if there's babies inside. Right about there looks good to me, and all I'm gonna do is trace a line. There, I'm not gonna do this one. And what I can do is just go cut this one off, leave it the exact same angle on the saw, and then just repeat it for the second side piece. If you're curious on where that mark actually is up on the board, you make yours however you want, but mine ended up being right at about 6 inches and 1/8. Again, you don't need a miter saw to do this. You could use a jigsaw. If you don't have a jigsaw, you could use a handsaw. You don't have a handsaw, use your teeth, or just go buy a saw. So what we're gonna do here is just line the saw blade up to this slope here. So you want your birdhouse to have a few things to make sure that it's safe for the bird and it lasts a long time. You want airflow, which means there has to be some sort of ventilation from the bottom and a way for air to get out the top. So I want there to be a crack on the front underneath the roof overhang. And then on the bottom, you can do a few things. We can either drill a few holes in the bottom plate, or I've seen some people just take about a 1/4 inch miter, 45-degree 1/4 inch down miter cut on all 4 corners along the bottom. That way air can get through the bottom. This will allow a little bit of air in, not too much so that the birds can, stay warm on the cold days, but they're not gonna overheat on the hot days. So some things to keep in mind there. Alrighty, my friends, we're moving right along here. So we got our back piece. That came out to be about 7 3/4 of an inch long. Then we have our side pieces here, which are on the longest side, they are 8 inches on the dot, and on the shortest side, they are 6 inches and 1/8. So to assemble these, I'm actually just using some 1-inch 18 gauge brad nails, and then we're gonna use some Titebond 3 wood glue. The reason I'm using Titebond 3 is because it's waterproof. Waterproof is necessary if we're gonna make these for outside, obviously. If you guys wanna use screws, that's totally cool. Just make sure they're outdoor rated so that they don't end up rusting out. So we're gonna take the short piece, which is 5 3/4 of an inch. We're gonna take one of the side walls here. We're gonna add some glue to the front here. Uh-oh. All right. You don't need to use this much glue. That was way too much. And a lot of these fence pickets actually are bowed, or they got a cup in them is what it's called. I like to put the cupping so that the bow is pointed out. I'm doing about 3 per side. That should be plenty. The wood glue is gonna do most of the holding here. Another trick too, if you want, you can angle the brad nails back and forth like this. That way, you know, there's a lot less chance of this getting pulled out eventually. I did not reverse the cut on this one, so we're actually putting the cupping the way I told you just not to. That's okay. The birds don't care as long as it is safe for them, right? Now for the back of it, it's the exact same thing. Just gonna flip it over. Put in some glue. Another very common mistake people make when building birdhouses is what I just did. I completely forgot, but you're not supposed to nail the roof to the top. You're supposed to use screws because you want to be able to access inside of it later, be able to clean the birdhouse out. There we go. That was way easier than I thought. We're gonna clean this up here, and then we're actually gonna pre-drill with a countersink bit. I'll show you how to do that, and then drive some screws in. If you guys mess up a lot like me, you need to take brad nails out a lot. Get yourself a pair of these groove joint pliers, and then you can use the leverage. Instead of pulling it towards you, pull it away from you. Like that, pulls the brad nails right out. Here we go. Just like that, all cleaned up. See, I mess up just so I can show you guys these little tips and tricks of the trade here. And we're gonna take a countersink bit right here on my drill. I'm just gonna drill 4 holes. For the bottom of the box, ideally we'd want this roof to overhang, not just in the front and the back by a little bit, but also on the sides, because the rain falls from the sky, right? Stay with me here. And that water is gonna hit the roof, right, and then run off, and it will hopefully, some of it might run underneath, but it won't go up. It shouldn't even get on the walls here, so it's gonna last longer. On the side here though, the water is gonna run down the side of the box and it'll pool up underneath here. And what we wanna do is actually inset this bottom plate up inside of the box about 1/4 of an inch. And that's gonna keep the bottom plate from getting wet, which will keep the inside of the house drier, much more comfortable and safe for the birds. And then also, it's gonna make your house last a lot longer. So what I'm gonna do to attach this is simply just same thing we've been doing before, add a little bit of glue along all 4 sides here. We're just gonna slide it in here like that. There we go. So we got it inset 1/4 of an inch, all 4 sides. So another tip for keeping the birds safe inside of this box is we don't want to add a perch. The perch just allows, the birds are fine getting in the hole here. They can land on the top, they can fly in, land on the edge. They're pretty resilient little creatures. We don't need to add a perch on the outside. That just makes it easier for other predators to get themselves up and actually hold themselves up while they try to get inside of the box. So we're gonna not put a perch on it, we're gonna put a hole. Now the size of the hole is actually really important. For this box, I want this to be for chickadees or wrens, because those are the birds that are, very frequent in my area. And I want it to be about 4 to 6 inches above the bottom of the box here. That's gonna allow the birds to be able to get in it and down inside when they build their nest. And that way, if a predator does get up into the box or try to get in the box, they can't reach inside. Because this is such a shallow box, we're actually gonna drill this up pretty high. The hole is gonna be pretty much right at the top here. So wherever you are in the world and whatever birds you're trying to attract, make sure you do your own research, figure out the correct size hole for the birds that you're trying to attract to your box. For chickadees and wrens, I found that 1 1/8 inches is right where you want to be. I'm gonna use a Forstner bit on my drill here to drill out the hole. I'm gonna go ahead and take the roof off actually when I do this. That way I can get the piece of wood out that I knocked out of the middle here. that glue's sticking a little bit still. We'll let that dry too. I'm gonna find the center of the box right here. Just like that. Another thing you could do on this build to help the chicks get out as they're getting ready to fly is add a couple grooves on the inside, just about 1/8 of an inch deep, just basically making a ladder for them to climb up, get out, start flying, spread their wings, leave the nest, so to speak. Quite literally, actually. I should also mention that if you're planning on mounting this to a tree, you're probably gonna wanna make this back piece stick out the top and the bottom. You can just take a longer piece, stick it on the back like that. You will have to adjust the roof probably so the overhang isn't so much. But then what you can do is put this up against the tree, put a few screws in the bottom, a few screws in the top. You're in business, you're good to go. I'm planning on putting this on a pole, so I'm just gonna get a flange for the bottom here, and then I'll screw it in, and then I'll just set it to the correct height. Look up whatever bird that you're planning on or trying to attract into your bird box, because there are heights to put it at that they prefer. We're gonna go ahead and throw some finish on this at the end with all 3 of the birdhouses. So that's the first easy birdhouse for the wrens and the chickadees. Let's go ahead and move on into the medium difficulty level birdhouse right now. The dimensions of this house is actually Bluebird approved. So it's got the Bluebird stamp of approval. I went and talked to them. They said that they live in this one. Since bluebirds are a little bit bigger, the dimensions of this house are gonna be a little bit bigger. So I'm not gonna be able to use a fence picket. I'm actually using a 1x8 cedar board, which it's actually 3/4 of an inch thick by 7¼ inches wide. So we're gonna go ahead and just start cutting these one at a time. For the first roof piece, we're gonna need it cut right at 9 inches. I am gonna go ahead and take off the factory edge on this because they're not always very straight. And I have learned that it's better to plug the saws in first before running them. They tend to work a little bit better. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all the pieces cut here first. If you guys wanna access the full cut list, it's all laid out there in the free plans. You can check that out in the description along with everything else. So we got all the pieces cut here. Here's the roof. You got the 9-inch piece and the 8¼ inch piece. They're gonna sit right like that at a 45-degree angle. We're gonna leave these the exact same width, so we're not going to rip them down on the table saw. Set these off to the side. These longer 11 7/8 inch pieces are going to need to get ripped down. We're just taking 1/4 inch off. So we're just gonna set the table saw over here right to 7 inches. Because of you guys and all the support you're showing, companies have actually been reaching out to me to sponsor some of the videos. So today's video is sponsored by Alpha Start. They gave me this pretty cool little push block here to try out. I actually don't use these push sticks anymore. Any table saw you get comes with some sort of plastic push stick, but I stopped using these a while ago. One, because I heard a bunch of horror stories of these older ones touching the blades and just exploding, just shooting shrapnel everywhere. So I didn't want that to happen. You can make these plastic ones out of scrap wood too. You know, take you a few minutes, but I've actually completely switched over. 90% of the time I'm using the table saw, I've got a push block in my hand. This Alpha Start's actually pretty cool. It's got some levers here so you can adjust the middle block depending on how wide the piece is that you're cutting on the table saw. And these side pieces are so thin that you're actually able to get this fence real close to the blade, even if you're cutting a really thin piece, and you're still able to push it through without hitting the blade. I like the handle on this too because it's pointing away from the blade. If we're putting a piece through, we're pushing it, we want our hand as far away from the blade as possible. But I like the push blocks because with a push stick, I'm way back here, right? And you can't reach in ever, right? I really try never, even if it's a wide board, to push through like this. I'm just as guilty of it as the next guy, but you really shouldn't do that. That's not a good practice. Push sticks are all right, but I just don't feel like I have nearly the control that I do with a push block. I'm able to put downward pressure. I'm able to push it up against the fence, which is the most important part, right? We never want to push it towards the blade. That can cause some pinching or binding, and that can cause kickback. And I'm able to push it forward. So down, to the fence and forward all at the same time. Nice and smooth. And then I can just hold on to the push block. When I'm done, shut the saw off, get the board later. This push block also has some really nice rubber grip on the bottom so that when I push it through, it's not sliding on the board at all. It's really firm and steady, so it just makes me feel a lot more comfortable when I sit up here. It's really fun to build. I love building out here, but staying safe is a priority over finishing any build in the shop out here. They sell these push blocks on Amazon. You can check out the link in the description if you'd like. And another thanks to you guys for supporting the channel because we're able to grow, we're able to get sponsors, and we can keep putting free plans out for everybody out there. Okay, so this is where we're going to find out that this is more of a medium difficulty build than a super easy one because we want two angles here. We're gonna have the roof pitch here, and then we're gonna bring it down on the side. So two angles, we're gonna need two identical pieces. So what we're gonna do here is mark down 1, 2, 3 1/4 inches right there. Here we go. So here's our center. And then I want to come either 2 inches out from the center on both sides, or you could just measure in 1.5 inches for both sides. So now we just take a straight edge here and we are going to draw the angle from the bottom mark we made to this side mark we made right here. Same thing on this side. Just like that. So we're gonna remove this material right here on both sides. So with the roof, I want there to be an air hole on the top. So we're actually not gonna come up to a perfect point at the tip here. Okay, so that's our roof pitch right there, right? 45 degrees. Again, you guys can reference the plans for all of the specific and details, but that's basically what we want right there. So that the roof is in line with the middle, but also lined up on both sides there. That way it's not shifted left or right. This flat space right here up on top, I want that there so that there's airflow through the birdhouse. So with this lined up exactly where we want it, I'm just gonna trace lines here and here. So now we know that it's perfectly centered. We need to remove that material, this material, and this material here. If you don't want to use the table saw with the miter gauge, you can just use your jigsaw and just put some sort of guide up against it. You can use some CA glue with some blue tape even, glue it down, and then just run your jigsaw along the line here. That'd be the easiest, and you wouldn't need very many tools for that. But if you want to know how to use a miter gauge, if you don't have a jigsaw, I want to use that method, you're gonna get a lot cleaner cut using a miter gauge with a lot more accurate angles. So to figure the angle out, what I decided to do, right here, where the angle starts on the side of the board here, 3 1/4 inch down, you're gonna see this piece square has a little arrow on it. It says pivot right up top here. So we can put that pivot, the arrow right on it, and then we're just gonna rotate this until it lines up right with that line. And you can see right here, it's right on 80 degrees, or just like 80.2. So now I know all I have to do is set my miter gauge to 10 degrees, and then I should be able to get a nice taper cut here. So I've got this sacrificial fence over here on my miter gauge, and I have it set just past 10 degrees, as you can see, angled towards the blade. Since all my markings are on this side, I started out wide and just kind of crept up on it until I got it right down the line that I want. But if I flip it over, I don't have any markings on this side. So what I did, pretty simple, I know that this is measured in 1.5 inches from the side here. So I just measure in 1.5 inches from the side. Then I just line that cut mark up here with the inside of my cut mark here on the sacrificial fence. I know that that's exactly where the blades are gonna run, just like that. Then we can make our tapered cut. All right, so now we have two identical pieces for the front and the back. Looking real good, nice and flush edges there. That's what we want to see. So we're gonna take our two side walls and we need them set. We can take the miter gauge off now. I have drawers underneath here that I can actually put this away in. How cool is that? Well, maybe. We'll fill this stuff up quick. That's not gonna fit. Oh, brother. All right, so now we're gonna set our table saw to 4 inches. And we're gonna rip both of these pieces down. I just remembered before I put this thing together, I do want to add a few basically ladder steps on the inside. Help the baby chicks climb up, spread their wings and leave the nest eventually. So we're gonna do that first over here on the table saw. We're gonna set the saw blade to 1/4 inch. Miter gauge is set to 10 degrees. My fence adjusts here on the saw so that I can use it as a stop block, move it back and forth. If you don't have one of these, just clip a scrap piece of wood on your fence. Works just the same. Lines on the back here. Little ladder for the baby birds to climb up. Go out the hole. Fly free. Is it necessary? Probably not. Let's go ahead and get started with this first. Start with the back, and then we'll work our way around. What I am gonna do though is I am gonna swap out the 1-inch brad nails in my brad nailer for these 1.25 inch, since this is thicker material than the fence pickets. If you have a carpenter vise, it makes it a lot easier. Stick that in there like that. Line up the bottom. If your piece ends up sticking out a little bit up here, it's okay, just trim it off like I just did. Something these will do is add a little gap on the side here. If you don't like that, you don't have to do a full pass all the way through. If you do a full pass all the way through like I did, you'll just have some extra air holes in here. This is a bigger box, so having some ventilation on the side is never a bad thing. Glue down this side. Do the exact same thing over here. It's looking pretty good so far. For the roof, let's go ahead and just leave the clamp on it right here. Basically, I just want to make sure that the overhang is the same on both sides here. There we go, that looks about right, just like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a mark now, so I just have a pencil line to line it up on one side. Take it off. And so we want, you can see the lap here, right? This is the side that we want to be screwed to the top. I'm okay with nailing this to the top. Put glue on this side. Line that up. We have that pencil mark to go off of underneath it. Now I can just measure in about 1 inch and know that just over 1 inch, and that's where I need to put my brad nails. Okay, now before we take it off, I do want to pre-drill over here. So let's measure in again. Set this right to 1.25 inches. Drill bit's bent. The thing is moving around every time I drill. The roof's gonna want to warp probably, so let's add a couple on the top here as well. And we'll just add a couple screws in the top here. Take the clamp off. Voila! That's his French. Check it out, looking pretty good. And all the research that I've done for bluebirds, eastern bluebirds, which are the birds that are in my area that I'm trying to attract to help the garden out, everybody says 1.5 inch hole. So that's what we're going for. I'm using a hole saw for this, mark center here, which would be 2 inches because we have a 4-inch bottom. I'm just gonna draw a line straight up the middle. I know, there's something about birdhouses. They're kind of fun to build. Hopefully you guys get a kick out of it as much as I do. Just like that. Whew, that is sharp. Nice. Sometimes these hole saws can be a little, they're dull at all. They just grab the wood and jolt everything around. Can be a little scary. Have ourselves cool little bluebird house. We're not done yet though. Again, we're not adding a perch. That just helps predators. We've got our ladder inside. We've got some vents here on the side. We've got our vents on top. I mean, it's not airtight by any means underneath there, which is good. We want there to be ventilation. And then we're gonna add the bottom plate. I'm gonna do 2 pieces here that are 4 inches long, like that. So 1, 2, but I gotta rip them down first to 2 3/4 of an inch, just over 2 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna add some glue down any places where the wood's gonna contact, and then maybe some in the middle too. I'll hold it together a little better. Just like that. Cool. That's not going anywhere. It looks good. With this knocked out of the way, we're gonna do a final sanding on this at the end along with the finish. Let's go ahead and move on to the most difficult build of today, the final birdhouse, the one that includes some trigonometry. Let's go. Number 3, the big one, the heavy hitter. I'm gonna see if I can build the whole thing completely out of a fence picket. Yeah, we're gonna try to do this whole thing out of a fence picket. I have a backup one in case I mess up. You guys are in this together with me, and we're gonna see if we can do all of this. Build this beautiful, complicated birdhouse with some very cheap materials. That's what this channel is all about, right? I like to build the most beautiful things I can out of the simplest materials. Let's get my thoughts together here. What am I doing? That's a question I ask myself every day. What am I doing today? I think first, let's head over to the computer, look at SketchUp, and make sure we have all of our dimensions correct. We are building a hexagon first, as you can see here. That's not so tricky, right? You guys might be thinking, well, that's not complicated at all. Just set the saw bevel to 30 degrees, you got yourself a hexagon. Well, it's not that easy, guys. Basically, we're trying to build, right, the barrel first, okay, the 6th side of the hexagon. And then we want the roof at a certain pitch, at a certain angle, all beveled and mitered. Now, at first it might seem fairly easy, but the more you think about it, we only have a board 5 inches thick, so we can't make it too pitched, otherwise we'll run out of material and we won't have a nice peak at the top. Anyways, that's where it gets kind of confusing. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there with information on this, but I found one. His name is Matthias. He's on YouTube. I'll put his link to his channel in the description, but he, thank goodness, made a trigonometry cheat sheet. So you basically pick the number of sides you want on your shape, and it tells you the miter and the tilt or the bevel angle, and then you can decide how wide or narrow you want it based off of the radius to length or something like that. I don't know. Watch the video on his channel on it, and he explains it way better than I can. I mean, seriously, guys, I should have studied trigonometry more in high school because that's crazy. Basically, what we're doing here, to make it super simple for you guys, we only have 5.5 inches of width to work with, like I just said. So what I'm gonna do is 21.5 degrees of miter and 21.5 degrees of bevel or tilt. I have not done this yet, so we're gonna learn together, you and I. But before we do the roof, let's go ahead and knock out the pieces for the barrel or the actual house. I'll take the factory edge off first. And I need 6 pieces at 8 inches. All right, we got 6 of them cut. This is what we got left of the fence picket. We will see if that's enough for the roof. We set the saw to 30 degrees here, so we're putting a 30-degree bevel on both sides. They need to be 3 inches wide on the widest side. All right, let's do a little dry fit here, see if this is gonna work. So basically, we should have a perfect, and I mean perfect, hexagon here. That looks pretty dang good for a fence picket, honestly. I hope this works. I am just as curious as you guys are on if this is going to work or not. What I do want to do, I think, for the bottom though, is I want to do a bit of a rabbet on the bottom of all of these so that we can actually inset the base into this. It'll make it look a lot cleaner than having some end grain underneath this. So let's go ahead and do that first over on the table saw. This is optional. Don't feel like you have to do this. Since this is the most difficult one, we might as well throw it in, right? So I set the fence to 7/8 of an inch to account for the curve of the blade because I want to put it an inch up. So we got the fence up here. I'm using this as a stop block so that I know this is an inch away from the outside of the blade. I'm just going to use the miter gauge here. We're just going to run it back and forth, and we're going to get ourselves a little bit of rabbet on all the pieces. A little bit of rabbet. Is that what I just said? I meant a little rabbit, and not the animal. Not rabbit as in R-A-B-B-I-T. It's R-A-B-B-E-T. Rabbet as in like woodworking joinery rabbit. Oh, I forgot to mention also, I raised the blade high enough so that it's cutting through just halfway through the material right here. All right, I think if I was gonna do that again, I would have cut the rabbet at 3/4 of an inch, not an inch. Again, Updated plans in the description. You guys are watching this after I have updated all the plans. Oh well, you live and you learn. What we need to do is do a glue up. So let's go ahead and slide these up. Grab some blue tape like this. Just stretch it out the length of these. It's kind of easier if you fold one side. Stick it to the table. Roll it out like that. Let it hang off the other side of the table. There we go. Stick them on just like that. We want them right up against each other, and we want to make sure they're flush with the top and the bottom. No gaps if possible. Actually been looking forward to this part. This is pretty fun to do. While I'm doing this, let me know in the comments, guys, if you prefer... I've done a lot of different styles of videos on this channel. So I kind of want to hear from you guys what you like best. Do you like more of the calm vlog style that I'm doing today with the birdhouses here? Not so fast paced, just kind of we're hanging out, building together. Or do you guys like more of the fast paced, get to the point stuff? Quick, punchy, aggressive. Maybe not aggressive, but you know what I mean. And if you don't know what I mean, you should go watch some other videos on my channel and see which ones you like the best. Let me know what style you guys prefer. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. Okay, so these are all lined up, no gaps. We're gonna go ahead and just add some wood glue. Again, waterproof wood glue along all the seams, all the way to the bottom. Make sure you don't miss any, because once you start folding this up, it's not fun to unfold it to hit when you miss, so. It should just fold up right on itself if we got all the angles and cuts correct. Let's see how we did. We nailed it. They're moving around a little bit down here, so this will just help make sure that they don't shift while I let it dry. While this is drying, we're going to go ahead and start cutting the mitered beveled roof pieces. We need to put the tilt or the bevel of the table saw blade at 21.5 degrees, and we need to set the miter saw, the miter gauge at 21.5 degrees. Now, a trick I learned when you're doing the bevel on the table saw here is to set it just like 0.1 degree lower than you need it. So instead of, this is reading 68.4, 90 degrees minus 21.5 is 68.5. I'm gonna set it to 68.4. That way, if anything is off, the gap won't be on the outside. It will tend to be more on the inside. So just a little tidbit for you there. But let's go ahead and start making some cuts. Well, we got the 21.5 degrees on the tilt and 21.5 degrees on the miter gauge. Oh. That's not 21.5 degrees, Jordan. Oh my goodness. I was about to get on here and tell you that it doesn't work, because check it out. I cut everything. It was looking pretty good. I used some CA glue just to hold this together so I can figure out what was going on. You can see this is our last slice of pie, and that is way too big for that. So I was scratching my head thinking, I followed the trigonometry sheet, and it should all work with the 5.5-inch material that I'm using, since they're fence pickets. So I thought I'd turn the camera on, because I like to show all of my mistakes just as much as when things work. And I was gonna tell you that everything was right, and I just had to figure it out, but as I'm talking, I realized I wasn't right. I had it way off. We were actually sitting at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24.5. That would explain why the angles didn't line up. We're gonna try this again. We're gonna get it right this time. Set both things at 21.5, and we'll see if that works. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we finally figured it out. We have our 6 little slices of pizza here. And what we need to do is figure out a way to attach this now. Well, first let's do this. I'm dying to know if this works or not. So stand these up. Heck yeah. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Let's see if I can do this. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's perfect. That's gonna work great. What I'm gonna try to do, I think, is basically put like a little lid that sits on top here, and then maybe a little peak that'll fit inside of the roof. It'll make more sense if I just do it and you guys watch. Take a pencil. We're just gonna draw lines on the inside. Just like that. That's our shape. While we're at it, we might as well just trace it again for the bottom, because we know we need one for the bottom. There are going to be some gaps, which I am okay with, because that'll actually help with the ventilation. Just square it up, and then I'm just going to trace again on the bottom, because this side is different than the top, because we've made the rabbits. All right, we have the larger piece going on top, like that. You can see we'll have, yeah, see, I would do it differently next time. Updated plans. And then, let's see if I can find the right side. Whoa, that's the side right there. There we go. Okay, so that'll go there. We need some sort of scrap piece to sit on top to kind of hold it up, make some sort of peak here. What I'm gonna do is just use the blue tape method again to glue the roof together. These are fence pickets with a lot of cup in them, so we're not gonna get a perfect, nice flush roof, but that's okay. Sanding will help a little bit, and it's just a birdhouse, so let's go ahead and just glue this up quick while we're at it. On this last piece, we'll just add some more tape. If you want, you can shoot some pin nails or brad nails in it as well, but I think for what we're doing here, this will be just fine. This is one of those builds that once you get through the first one, the rest of them are knocked out so much easier, because there's just a few things to figure out, but we figured it out. We got it done. Oh, come on now, there it is. I cut this to 45 degrees, and then I just took the bandsaw and clipped off the top. It's close enough to fit right inside here, and this little triangle piece is the exact width of the diameter of the box here. So line this up so it's nice and straight. Put a screw in right here. Again, we want to do this so that we can access inside the house when we need to. There's two. Should come right off. There we go. So there's the roof. Looks more complicated than it is. That sits right in here, and now we can just run a screw in there. I'm gonna go ahead and take the roof off now, and we're gonna put the hole in. So I'm gonna put the bottom of the hole 4.5 inches up. This is gonna be for probably chickadees and wrens again. I don't see any reason why I would need to open the bottom up if the roof can be accessed. So we're just gonna add some glue along that inside edge of the rabbit. You can add more holes if you'd like, but the way the fence picket works out, you're gonna have a gap on both sides here. That should let enough air in. Just gonna put a few brad nails in the side here. All right, guys, well, if you stayed and you're still watching, congratulations, good job. You're my favorite viewers. Another thanks to Alpha Start for sponsoring this video. If you wanna get a push block for yourself, for your shop, stay safe, check out the link with the discount code in the description below. And let me know in the comments which one of these bird boxes is your favorite. I decided not to put finish on it because I think my wife wants to put paint on one of these. I don't know which ones, so I'm gonna hold off. But I would suggest using some linseed oil just on the outside. If you wanna add a little more time to these boxes, you're good to go. These are made out of cedar, so you don't even have to put any finish on them if you don't want. Don't forget to check out the free plans in the description. And if you guys enjoyed this build video, check out the video somewhere on the screen here. I'll see you guys there.